and welcome to Punch Drunk Philosophy Outdoors.
Hello.
We have high ambitions for this podcast, and we are beginning with a park in Nottingham.
It's lovely, the sun is out, it's a nice Saturday afternoon in the park.
We were thinking of going for maybe my garden, but I thought we'll at least be somewhat ambitious for the first one, considering what we're moving up to fairly soon. But anyway, I am Adam Reel. This here is the wonderful Tim Haigh.
Hello.
And this is a really nice day. Everybody's got their dogs out in the park. It's should we rotate the camera a little bit?
Let's see the world.
Everything's so luscious and green.
We've just met a lovely dog named after Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
There we go.
This dog comes along, obviously sees that there are people in this spot where he doesn't normally see people, starts like barking at us like rah, 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 rah. And we thought, what, does the dog not like? But then dog quickly like,
He rolls over
Tommy.
and shows us his cute side.
Very, very floofy, happy dog.
I loved him.
And like the puppies saw as well, just so excited to see grass, like entire world, like grass. Yeah, I would kill to be that happy right now and like have no clue what's going on in Syria. And
oh my god,
yeah,
ignorance really is bliss when you're a puppy.
That's such a happy world. Being a puppy is such a, and like these birds as well. I mean, it's quite a weird sight as well. Like not all of the. We're in April right now, so it's really quite sunny, especially for England. But the trees don't have full leaves and stuff.
It almost feels like the weather sort of tripped over itself and sort of found itself in like halfway through spring/summer, and the trees haven't caught up yet. But it's lovely out.
But okay, cool. Well, we can talk a bit about Syria, I guess, discussing the world's crazy problems in such this. Can we call this picturesque? Oh no, it's picturesque for England.
This is as good a place to discuss Syrian politics as anywhere, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't really know where to start on this. I mean, obviously it's an action that I'm against, but what the fuck do I know?
Well, bit of context for the listeners.
Okay, bit of context, explain. The whole thing in Syria, there's a civil war going on between Assad, who's a bad dictator, and rebels who allegedly were firstly democratic and just wanting reform alongside the whole Arab Spring that was going on back in those days, 2011 to 2012. The civil war breaks out and the rebels are basically fucking ISIS right now, like interchangeable with a lot of Al-Qaeda regiments. And there was a chemical gas attack which people blamed on Assad very suspiciously. And now the US is airstriking Assad bases.
Yeah, within 24 hours launched 60 missiles.
Well, the really suspicious thing is just it doesn't make any sense for Assad to do this. It's being quickly blamed on him, and the United States has changed its official tune under Trump that was before, like no interference, let them sort of fight out and resolve the civil war. And there was a red line established a while ago of a chemical gas attack that the rebels have tried to frame Assad for before in order to bring in US interference.
Wasn't that 2013?
Yeah, 2013 it was proved by the UN that Assad doesn't have, well, I wouldn't say proved conclusively that Assad doesn't have chemical weapons, but they said Assad doesn't have chemical weapons, that he didn't carry this out, this was the rebels.
Well, didn't John Kerry say something, like perform an operation saying that they'd done the last sweep of Assad's weapons facilities and said that there was no undeclared chemical weapons or something? It was very proud and it was very official, saying there was no chemical weapons here.
That's conclusive, but apparently the narrative's changed. And when you're winning a war, also Assad, he would have seen the Gaddafi video of how Gaddafi died, which is not fucking pretty, and you know that that's possibly waiting for you if your regime collapses and the US is backing regime change.
Well, any regime that uses weapons of mass destruction, whether it be nuclear, chemical, biological, or any, they know what happens. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, that was a firmly established red line before.
Yeah, the UN comes down pretty fucking hard.
And with peace negotiations around the corner, with him winning the war due to air superiority over the rebels, it makes absolutely no sense for him to play the one factor that will lose it for him and bring in outside intervention and risk losing the war.
Why paint a target on your back at this stage after peace talks and actually making progress?
Precisely. So it's weird, and Hillary Clinton's come out of the woodwork. It's interesting what she sees important enough to speak out on these days, and she was very, very keen, like, yay, destroy Assad. Like, have we not learned from anything from, like, decades of foreign policy that's just been a fucking disaster based around regime change? It's like, this guy is bad, we'll get rid of him. Wait, what are we replacing him with? Who the fuck cares?
Well, it's this whole policy of American exceptionalism, and again, going back to the world police thing, that you think like, Team America is satire enough, but apparently we've all forgotten that Iraq was a thing, and that, you know, basing foreign intervention on very sketchy intelligence and piecing together as quickly as you can some sort of response. The whole thing just is a bit fishy to me. It's just so, the time frame as well, it just all happens so quickly, and
and just leaving that kind of power vacuum in a place is proven a disaster. Like, Libya isn't great right now. Iraq, like, fucking hell, like, we don't even need to talk about Iraq and the growth of ISIS there and sectarian violence that since Saddam was disposed. Like, it's a very rough one. Obviously we're going to have to see how it turns out, but I am increasingly fucking skeptical. Obviously I was a guy who was very excited about Trump's election because he ran on an anti-interventionist platform, and it's like, this is so much better than, like, hawk psychos like Clinton and fake doves, as they call them, like doves and hawks in the US Congress, referred to those who vote repeatedly for war and vote repeatedly for peace, as just to, in case any listeners didn't get what I was talking about. But yeah, Obama was a fake dove. He ran fairly on an internet anti-interventionist platform. He was talking about how critical he was on the war on Iraq and the war on terror.
Ridiculous how he got a Nobel Peace Prize.
I think that was for some kind of vague gestures of nuclear disarmament right at the start of his administration.
It was 100% more symbolic than anything, than based on any actual action, because when you look at the escalation of drone strikes under the Obama administration, there's absolutely no semblance of peace under that whatsoever.
It was, because he said, like, okay, well, we can withdraw a shit ton of troops from Iraq and then we're going to put them in Afghanistan. And the hasty withdrawal from Iraq, that I think was 2011, really just left that power vacuum for ISIS. It's just like, go in, fuck the place up, destroy a shit ton of infrastructure, leave a power vacuum, who occupies it? And in a lot of these places, they need to unite around fairly simple messages, and effective messages, effective kind of like policies are going to be at least somewhat complex, as in, like, because society is very difficult to run. The advantage of religious fundamentalism is it's got that quick, easy connection with people, and it really kind of like can rally individuals up. So that kind of religious fundamentalism, approaching people with a whole ideology of war and all these like lovely nationalistic, I guess it's some semblance of nationalistic, all those kind of like images that make you feel like relevant and purposeful. It incites
give you meaning
people up
to your small individual.
Yeah, and of course the people who would actually be recruited to ISIS are fucking psychos already. So
uneducated, morally questionable, easily manipulatable
assholes.
Well, the perfect soldiers, really.
Well, I would say that about ours, but there's a lot of good.
Well,
ours and like a lot of the ones in the West I've encountered, like very good kind of people. It's varied.
Well, I just meant in the sense that they'll do anything you tell them to do.
Oh,
really.
yeah.
Feed them enough brainwashing information, and they'll just go and, you know, blow themselves up for the promise of eternal afterlife.
Yep, it's insane people.
Bug on you.
Well,
there you go. Oh no.
What kind of bug?
Just a tiny little beetle kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's still chilling. Just there.
Oh, hey, buddy. There you go.
Got him.
Hey, little guy. See, in England, I can be completely peaceful about this. When we're in Kenya, like having a bug on you, it's gonna be a bit.
Don't move. Let me get the flamethrower out.
I don't think. Yeah, we need to research more into that. Okay, for the record of listeners, like Punch Drunk Philosophy Outdoors is upgrading. In June, we are going to be going to Nairobi and Kenya, so we're going to visit like maybe the Serengeti, Savannah, and do a podcast out there. And we're going to try and do one on a Nairobi rooftop and yeah, we've got high ambitions for this podcast. We've got a lot of other places we've got on our radar. Maybe Aleppo. Probably not, but...
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean...
No, I mean, yeah, obviously the big concern right now is the people of Syria who are possibly going to get fucked by this, but it's such a multifaceted conflict, a lot of competing interests in there. You've got Turkey in there, you've got Russia in there, you've got Saudi Arabia in there, you've got Assad loyalists, you've got, well, I guess you'd call them liberal Democrats, or kind of a liberal intelligentsia. But so many also would have bailed from Syria by now.
Yeah. It must be a
And then you got
this.
like the religious fundamentalists, the people who we really fucking don't want ending up taking power.
Who, unfortunately, seem so far to have been amongst some of the more successful parties.
Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just the thing about this gas attack. It's not number one. It's not weaponized sarin, so this isn't military grade. Why? There's no military advantage for Assad in doing this. Like, oh, okay, I'm nearly winning this war that might end up killing me and my family in a horrific way. I've nearly finished winning this war. Do I want to tempt the international community, who will be a decider in this conflict if they get involved, and ruin my lead just for the sake of really badly gassing a few civilians?
Civilians with no tactical significance whatsoever. Something that just is framed as such a evil cartoon villain thing to do.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh, why is he doing this? Shit knows.
Because
I'm
he's
just
a
an
bad
evil
person.
guy.
Like,
I'm just an evil guy, I guess.
no bad guy ever thought that they were the bad guy. Like, you don't just gas civilians for the fun of gassing civilians.
No, you don't. I mean,
Gotta
I
dig
guess
deeper.
I guess there are reports of like Syrian planes in the area, like Assad planes. So like maybe they bombed a chemical facility that was held by the rebels. Like they were trying to, because it was amateur sarin. Like weaponized sarin kills thousands, and all the images of
Look
people
at the
handling
subway
without gloves.
attacks in Tokyo in the 90s to see
Yeah.
how...
Well, they were shit. That was shit sarin.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But even that could have been so much worse.
yeah, it's
Fucking cults and their doomsday mantras.
Well, we can move on to Aum Shinrikyo. Like that's one of my favourite subjects. Aum Shinrikyo. Okay, should I? Yeah, fuck it. We've moved Syrian dictators. Let's talk about evil men from Japan now. Alright, Aum Shinrikyo is led by this guy called Shoko Asahara, who got his cult training by being a partially sighted guy in a school for the blind. So the literal definition of in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So he, like, someone would say like, oh, I need to go to my dentist appointment, and then go home, and Shoko would say like, oh, okay, I will guide you there. And it's like, oh, so nice of you, Shoko. It would guide him to guide them to like their dentist appointments. Like, how are you going to get home? Maybe you just want to be abandoned on the streets. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And yeah, so he would learn how to scam and manipulate people from there. And he got very involved in like, you know, yoga and spirituality, like the whole new age crap that was going on around then.
And build
Got
himself as some sort of pseudo Buddhist
pseudo spirit. He would come in and
kind of-
talk about yoga all the time on TV. He was
his
quite
TV
well
interviews
received.
are so weird.
They're so
He's-
accepting, aren't they?
Oh god,
They like him.
He's so eccentric and just like off the chain, and they're just so polite
Like,
and
ooh,
well mannered.
lovely. This is a wonderful. I guess now there's been so much of a kind of great scientific backlash against a lot of that stuff that we don't realise that 10, 20 years ago people would like horoscopes and people still do fucking acupuncture. If you think acupuncture is at all good, if you recommend it, you're a fucking moron.
And Eastern
If you sell it,
mysticism-
you're a scammer. Fuck you, people who do acupuncture. But yeah, that's just my little.
But I guess you get a lot of Eastern cultures that are just inherently more suspicious because of like Eastern mysticism and all sorts of superstitions that aren't. I don't know how seriously they're taken, but there's a lot of smaller like superstitions that you get in. Sort of
We'll just
Asian
continue for the
cultures.
people who don't know what we're talking about as well. But this is leading up to the sarin gas attacks in 1995. Aum Shinrikyo began as this cult. It's called Supreme Truth, and it really struck a chord with a lot of Japanese people and Japanese culture, because you've got they call them herbivore men, or like people who just like they live in their entertainment. It's a very isolated culture living in somewhere like
They're
Tokyo.
just consumers rather than
They
producers.
don't interact with other people. They don't have like family friendships.
They're not interested in pursuing sex or like relationships with women. They just keep themselves and just sit in their little pillbox hotel rooms.
Watching lots of anime.
Yeah.
So with that kind of anime manga, like sci-fi thing, he talked to people and claimed to have like all these spiritual powers. Claimed he could levitate, would circulate a bunch of like really bullshitty photos, and like say all
But
these.
that was the
people...
90s before Photoshop. People knew what Photoshop was, so he could get away with it.
Yep. Well, that's a really creepy thing about. I always found about the sarin attacks was how educated the people who took them out were. Like these are PhDs in physics. These are like one was a cardiologist for many years, left his practice.
They had fucking huge chemical weapons labs on the base of Mount Fuji that just went completely unchecked by authorities for years. That they were just mass producing these batches of amateur sarin, but like huge batches of them.
Well, actually, the creepiest one, talking about their facilities, like was allowed to grow. Very creepy. There's a weird thing going on. It's quite a muddy history. I've struggled to research it between the Yakuza and the police, because factually there are several times where illegal stuff was being done by and the police and the local government could have done a lot to stop it, but they didn't. So they must have had some way of circumventing around that. They had a lot of these weird cultist ambitions. They were a doomsday cult. They talked about World War III starting, Japan going to
bring
war.
it around so they could be the saviours to lead humanity into a new age in the apocalypse.
Such an overdone thing with cult. Like Manson did it. Like, it's nothing fucking original. Yeah. Oh, we are going to be the only survivors. Like Christianity fucking did it. Read the Book of Revelations. That's the whole thing. It's like, there's going to be a big apocalypse, and we're going to be the only ones that survive.
No, we're the chosen ones.
Yeah.
No, we're the chosen ones. Only we're going to be the ones left at the end of the world.
Also had just to like have an idea of what kind of scary levels they might have been developing at. They had a thing in Australia. They had a big compound in Australia that they bought, and lots and lots of dead sheep from when they were testing out all their chemical weapons and stuff, and seismic activity was recorded that matches a small atomic device. That is scary.
I forgot about that until just now. And yeah, the fact
like it's not confirmed that they had nuclear weapons, but that's suspicious. That's scary.
For it to show up on a seismic activity reader to begin with is suspect.
Yeah.
Like to think that a cult has got their hands on nuclear material is a self-professed doomsday cult that don't hide the fact that they want to end the world. That's in the 90s as well. This was before like the takeoff of the internet, before information was like readily available. So it's scary how high up in the hierarchy and like how educated the members could be.
Well, I guess it's sort of same principles as Scientology somewhat, as in they just had brutal camps of brutal like beating people into obedience.
Yeah.
So all sorts of abuse. People died there because a lot of them were like frail, like undernourished individuals. Some of them older. Like a lot of them died. There's a lot of records of death in camps that really went under-investigated.
Didn't they have like a semi-communistic structure in that they'd give out free food to members and everyone would have free board and, well, I say free, they'd have to work for it.
Well, it's a socialist paradise. Like, all these humanitarian abuses, but free stuff.
I get to live for free. I mean, I do get to be indoctrinated into this horrible cult that wants to end the world, but
fuck
I
it
get
if they
bed
have
and some food.
Fuck it if they have political sanctioned killings. They've got free healthcare. Whoa. Yeah. But anyways, enough of shitting on the left. Leading up to the sarin gas attacks with this narrative of they had already used weaponized sarin because there were judges in I think it's the town of Matsumoto in Japan.
Yeah.
There were judges who were investigating them for various crimes. Somebody was taking them to court over a property thing, but it looked dangerous for them.
I'm pretty sure their facilities on the base of Mount Fuji were discovered at some point, and there was a big hush-hush about it. Like some police members or some authorities came across them, and they were either paid off or some shady business to basically like, no, this
generated some kind of excuse for it. So it continued. They used sarin gas against where a lot of the judges and officials were staying. The air, I think the wind blew in a different direction, and if it hadn't blown that way on that day, then like hundreds more people would be killed. I think I'm probably butchering the facts, but I think it was about sort of 8 to 15, maybe 40. I should really look this up before. I didn't know we were going to talk about but lots of people killed. Some judges were armed and killed, and the charges were dropped because they didn't mention because they didn't claim responsibility and were not caught for the fact. It's this is when it comes. I wrote an essay on this once actually. There's a difficult relationship then when we define a terrorist organisation, because there's no real legit consensus definition of what terrorism is, what a terrorist organisation is, and whether fits into that. One thing that sets them apart with the sarin gas attacks, the 2 sarin gas attacks, and their ambitions is they don't want to seek to claim responsibility. A lot of terrorists want a lot of people watching rather than. But I guess you could say even if they didn't want even if they didn't want it directly on there, they did want to create terror and chaos, and their primary motivation was the effects from the attack. Well, okay, going to the actual sarin gas attack that they were eventually caught for in 1995.
On the Tokyo subway.
Yeah, on the Tokyo subway. The objective is the Tokyo police were about to raid an armed compound. So Shoko wanted to strike the heart of the Japanese police. This is why there's a sequence of grey areas and dodgy lines where does this define as just a kind of ideological terrorist attack? Because if you take the assumption that Shoko Asahara didn't believe a fucking word of the bullshit he was saying, and that was all for control, then you can almost view it in the same category as a drug cartel or something, just protecting my illegal dodgy business.
Yeah, just
rather than an ideological extremist.
Protecting your own back rather than your grand vision for the world.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, it's called
ironic that I say vision and he didn't really have any.
Yeah, sure.
but
but yeah, I mean, there's a move then. If anybody who's familiar with the game of Go, I'll try and explain this. A game of Go, it's called a Kakashi move. Like when you're about to be taken by someone's pieces, but you engage their pieces in another area of the board, forcing them to, instead of finishing you off and attacking you, go and defend that instead. So you can use that kind of move in military strategy is basically what went on with this. They tried to attack the Tokyo subway. The targets were designated around.
They had 4 targets, didn't they?
I think so. Well, 5. It was 5.
Because I remember most of them failed because despite the fact that they had all these crazy chemical weapon labs on Mount Fuji and mass producing these chemicals to create sarin gas, ultimately what it came down to was 2 chemicals mixed in a fucking condom, left in a cubicle in a toilet and hoping for the best.
Well, it wasn't a cubicle. What they did, they took it in plastic bags and they had umbrellas with a spike on them.
That was it, yeah.
So they put it on the ground and they just saw that and they just tried to spike it as much as possible. I mean, some of them didn't puncture all their packs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was shit sarin. They hadn't weaponized it properly. If they had weaponized it properly and released it properly, thousands.
Yeah, it was pure incompetence that saved everyone, really.
Thank fuck.
Well, one of the bags in the restrooms caught fire, which was how they were caught. Is because they found this fire in one of the toilet cubicles, which had the condom full of burning chemicals and gas in it, and they found this. Was that in
the Tokyo subway? Because I thought all of them were penetrated actually in the subway cars. That might have been the Matsumoto one.
There was definitely an outlier one that led to them being caught. That was in a toilet cubicle. I'm fairly sure.
I'm trying to remember. I thought there was a lot of other things where most people believed was responsible right after it, just based on suspicions. But yeah, the ambition was to take out the Tokyo police around there before they could carry out the raid on the compound.
No, that's it, because they were hoping to stagger the attack so that one of the attacks would take place on the subway, so that all the police would go down to the subway. And once they were down there, they would trigger the rest of them, basically forcing the police down there and gassing them all.
I have a bit of a memory of that.
But obviously it didn't work, because I think the way they tried to stagger it, they didn't, because it was so low tech and done just by stabbing a bag and hoping for the best, that the timings didn't work out the way they wanted to, and ultimately fucked them over in the end, which worked at everyone's.
Which is fucking brilliant.
Which is a miracle.
Terrible for the people who actually died and were horrifically injured from it, because sarin's really not good for you.
But
it's
well, not good for you is a bit of an understatement.
But yeah, I mean, On got taken down. Asahara and a lot of the leadership were arrested quite promptly, and they were. Many counts of murder. I don't know if Japan has specific. No, they don't have specific terrorism charges out there. The judge did call it an act of terrorism. But yeah, he's still waiting execution. Like,
Well, they're still active.
well, I'm still active. It's had a growth in Russia recently, which I find really confusing
And concerning.
yeah. Like, oh, that's weird. But it's still around. I guess when you have a cult like that, it's you mistrust what people say on the internet or about it quite a bit, and you just isolate yourself in this tiny little world. And your entire worldview narrative is controlled by these psychotic fucking people.
You've got to be pretty susceptible and naive to buy into something like that in the internet age, where you can do your own research and look into the history of it. And if you're still sold on it, then clearly
you're an idiot.
you've done something real wrong to get to that stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, Scientology, they based their whole marketing strategy around that. I mean, that's why they did so well in Los Angeles. Have all these narcissistic,
naive,
confused,
like,
very eager to
middle-class
please,
homemaker mums and that sort of thing.
Well, not more that, more young actors, because they said, "Oh, we can help advance your career," which of course they're whores over there. So of course, like, I can get an acting gig on Law and Order. I will do anything for this. Like,
well, it's also the 90s again, similar, like. They came up in the 90s before, like, the advent of the internet, and before people could really fact check Scientology.
Not many people knew what it was then as well. There hadn't been no kind of exposés, and they were very, very good with their lawyers to keep that shut down. It was really 2005 was a South Park episode, and I think that was first real kind of expansion of the Xenu thing, because before they had this whole corporate secrets act, like, you can't disclose corporate secrets, it comes under corporate secrets.
Typical of every religion that you know of, right? Every religion has corporate secrets, right, that they're legally obliged to not share with anyone.
It's well, they've got a great team of lawyers. They managed to get tax exempt status by just being evil to everyone in the IRS,
just bullying them every request. Didn't they do something like send faxes to the IRS that were just completely black pages to waste all their ink?
That sounds like it.
Like stupid little intimidation tactics, and just getting the IRS to go, all right, you win, you've annoyed us enough, have your fucking tax-free status, you cunts.
And the horrible thing about Scientology, it's one of the real evils in Western society recently. Well, I don't know, there's a shit ton of evil, but Scientology is evil as fuck, especially like the abuse in the Sea Org. And
oh my god, and the billion-year contracts they sign, and the fact that L. Ron Hubbard was a fucking science fiction writer and said, if I wanted to make loads of money, I'd go and found my own religion, and then founded his own religion.
That made shit tons of money on tax-free real estate.
That did exactly what he said it would do. How can people buy into this?
Well, okay, well, I mean, it does something different. I mean, we talked about their, like, narcissistic membership, their career-based membership. Who got in, and then when they got in, it's hard to get out because there's like streams of psychological bullying. They call them squirrels, people who left, and they suppressive people. Your thetan levels are so low. Like you're on OT minus 1 million. So like going after those kind of people, that kind of bullying, and like. People like Leah Remini, they were born, practically like grew up in the cult.
Her story is fascinating.
Yeah, it's so sad.
But a lot of it isn't even. I mean, obviously they have there's those well-documented beatings from like Marty Rathbun and David Miscavige and that sort of thing. But most of it, I'd say, is psychological in the fact that if you're born in Scientology and your family's in Scientology, your parents, your siblings, and your husband and whatever. And you're told, if you're a suppressive person, you never get to see these people again, that's going to play on your mind pretty fucking bad. Just knowing that...
Yeah, and giving that up, that's not easy wherever you come from. I mean, I think any kind of cult religion, if you leave your religious family, like let's say you wanted to get married to somebody who's not a religion, or God forbid you're gay, a lot of religious communities will not tolerate that, and you're ostracized forever.
Oh, even like the stricter Mormon communities in Utah can be insane towards apostates and people who have left the Mormon church, and they can hound them for years. So,
and with Scientology as well, because you have auditing where you confess all your darkest shit, all the stuff that in your past that's making you feel terrible.
It's basically handing blackmail hand over fist to the people that are going to use it against you.
Yeah, well, John Travolta, like when he started distancing, like stuff came out about him.
Gay, 100% gay. There's
Yep.
no doubt in my mind that John Travolta is gay.
Very, very gay. And well, he was sucking producers' dicks for roles back in the day. That came out.
Yep.
Well, time, so Scientology might have been
and
party to releasing that.
And there's been all those photos snapped of him with a like the same man for decades on a private plane, giving him a kiss, that sort of thing.
I mean, it's fine. It's okay to be gay. Well,
But
Tom Cruise, okay, the other way. I don't know, really.
I don't know if he's gay, but I know I don't know. I think he gives off the appearance of being too squeaky clean to be squeaky clean.
I really wonder whether it's a case of like he really, really, really likes the church, or the stuff the church have on him is pretty fucking deadly.
I imagine for Tom Cruise it's hard because he's the poster boy for Scientology and has been for decades, and
it's a whole organisation of people who a lot of Scientology is dedicated just to making Tom Cruise happy.
Oh fuck yeah, he's essentially the second in command after David Miscavige.
Yeah, so
like he's got an entire infrastructure backing him up.
It's hard to give up that god status.
Yeah, well, hard to give up that god status, hard to turn away all these freebies you're being given and all this reputation that you've basically built your career on, the fact that you're a Scientologist.
Yep.
I imagine at this point, even if he's completely disillusioned with it to the point of doesn't really believe it, it's still too beneficial to him on a personal level for him to go against it. So I don't know whether they've got loads of shit on him, whether he's killed a guy and they're covering for him, whether he's closet gay or whatever, or whether he just really likes the power trip of being head of this cult.
I want to believe the last one, because the thing is, I don't believe it's just because he's gay anymore. Like people
That's
said,
too
like,
easy.
Yeah, and even though like I think Joe Rogan said like, he can't come out as gay because that would kill his character, that kind of manly man in a romantic comedy. It's like, well, you can do different roles, and Hollywood is very appreciative now, that kind of thing. He's like, I escaped from this evil cult and like I'm finally accepting who I am. He'd be accepted in so many things, and also Neil Patrick Harris, like you can, lots of gay dudes can be bought as ladies' men as well.
Exactly.
In that, because charismatic, charming, well dressed.
With Tom Cruise, what's interesting about him is that, especially in recent years, his domestic appeal in the US has dropped, but internationally it's skyrocketed. In China, he's huge. He is the poster boy of American movies in China. He's the biggest draw in China that there is. And I don't know, I'm not sure how much they know about his Scientology.
So did they like
roots.
Oblivion and like the new Mission Impossibles, I guess?
Yeah, I think they've done outstandingly abroad and made most of their money, but like more money internationally than they did domestically.
That's weird, because he seems a lot less relevant now. I mean, coming from a British audience, like film-wise, I can't really bring to mind.
Less relevant, but it's come at a time where Western movies' saturation in foreign markets is at an all-time high.
Yeah, and like a lot of films right now are just utter shit.
Yeah.
Like mainstream cinema right now is utter shit. Like fucking hell, so many sequels, so much just general fucking crap.
Oh, the Oscars this year was just cringeworthy.
Ugh.
Did you see La La Land?
No, it looks shit. It looks like
I
can't. It looks like, ooh, look at all this whimsy.
Look at how lovely and magical Hollywood is, and it's the one where dreams come true. And if you just work hard enough, you can become whatever you want to be.
Like, I am sick of films about the psychological profile of movies and acting.
It's like meta films about film.
Yeah, it's been so fucking done. I mean, like Birdman was good, like delving into the tortured artist.
Still not seen Birdman.
It's really good. I like it, like delving into the tortured artist like that. But it's very trodden area. But I think it took it to some unique territory. But
there's just a level of circle jerk present in sort of Hollywood and all these self-referential films about the process of films and like just this backpatting of being a creative. It's like, okay, well done. You made a film about making a film again.
Good job. Oh, it's
like
so
Charlie Kaufman.
whimsy.
It's just he's so intricate and meta, and his films fold in on themselves. It's like, no, he's just being fucking complex for the sake of being complex. I know. Have you seen Cynic Doc in New York with Philip Seymour Hoffman?
No.
Oh my god, I've never seen a more pretentious, self-wankery film in my life. My god, it's about this writer/director who's directing a film that transcends his mind, and he's directing his own mind and getting other characters to play himself. And it's just like, yeah, it's got some cool moments and some interesting speeches, but it's so fucking self-wankery, and it's like congratulating itself for being so complex, and it's like, no.
I hate those when it's so unsubtle that the writer is just like sort of playing out some self-fantasies in it.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's a scene in this film towards the end, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. I mean,
which film again?
Cynic Dock in New York, 2007. It's got Philip Seymour Hoffman in. I believe it's Charlie Kaufman. There's a scene where he's watching his own funeral while he's played by someone else and a priest is played by someone he's met in his life, in his mind, as the director of this play in his mind. And it's just like
so
fucking
meta.
Folds in on itself so much. It's like, what is the point you're trying to make here, other than the fact that, well done, you made a meta film?
Yeah.
Okay, rant over.
Meta.
I'm done with Charlie Kaufman.
That's a good one.
Wow, this veered away from cults fairly significantly.
Well, we got to cults to just being angry about Hollywood in general, and yeah, the whole kind of like cultural tumour, it's become like resist Trump, what's that? You're so fucking disconnected. Like, you're not representative of the people. You're the annoying theatre kids who came from all across the country and have one specific talent that does not qualify you to speak on great issues. I understand when you have access to the media, you have a certain you have a unique opportunity to, like, you know, do things that matter. But keep that to plugging charities, plugging like humanitarian efforts.
Doesn't mean you have a moral obligation to do it.
Yeah, when it comes to like political candidates and like furthering that your candidate is better than the other one that people are voting for, it's so mind-blowingly self-righteous. Like, who was it? Was it Tim Allen who said like, "Oh, it's like being Nazi Germany, being a conservative in Hollywood right now"?
Probably something like that.
Tim Allen. I mean, I don't appreciate that because I think invoking Godwin's law is just really, really immature, and I think there's other periods of history to invoke, and just so over dramatic. Like, fucking come on, okay. Like, there are troubles in politics right now, but you really going to compare yourself to the genocidal totalitarianism of 1930s Germany? Like, come the fuck on. It's so narcissistic that we always think we're on the verge of a great apocalypse. We're always on the verge of a fascist dictatorship rising, and that we are the resistance. It's like, no, you're not.
This narrative of painting yourselves as the hero, and
yeah, precisely. And like, especially when you're on the left right now, because leftism is big government. Leftism is, it's big government, state control, nationalisation, which is far more of a totalitarian trait than like, hey, let's step back the government, let's lower taxes, let's cut entitlement programs. I
guess it depends on how you're. I mean, you've got different sects of the left. You've got the moral left. You've got the economic left. You've got your left light, which is just you sort of a lot of it just comes down to naivety, not necessarily because people want complete state control and communism to.
Well, I'm talking about, okay, if we do, let's specify this in a in a kind of Clinton context, U.S. election wise, as in those who would be hardcore Clinton, hardcore anti-Trump.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that kind of brand of left, and I'm talking about the mainstream sort of Democrats at the time, and the mainstream parties here that represent the left wing, like Labour, which is just fucking shit right now. Oh my god, we have these Tory.
What?
Okay, like context of British politics, we only have two parties, one supposedly centre left, one supposedly centre right, but yeah, they're really, really just, they're very authoritarian, both of them, both like big government. The Tory government now, we have an unelected leader because Dave Cameron resigned and Theresa May just sort of came in, and then eventually we just had all sorts of crazy shit like the Snoopers Charter, which means DEFRA, the Department of like Food, Drugs, Food, Agriculture and Rural Affairs, the Department of Ecology, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA. Yeah, that's the one, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, they can read my fucking emails if they want to, thanks to the fucking Snoopers Charter. Fuck you. And yeah, Corbyn doesn't oppose this.
Yeah,
the leader of the Labour Party.
No, he just abstain from voting.
Oh yeah. Doesn't actually give any proper opposition, and then just comes out with bullshit like, "Oh, we are going to give."
The people and...
Do you see the policy came out recently? He says he wants to give free school meals to every primary school kid across the UK, and then says like, "Oh, don't you think it's important to feed children?" It's like, well, yes, it's important to feed children, but wait, so we need to have the state give all food to the kids? Like, no, parents are like, we already have a free school meal program to give it for those who can't afford it, so they can get free school meals. Like, wait, what? And he wants to fund this by adding VAT, which is 20%, to private school fees. And people who are in the private school system, they save the state money. They save the state money by not having to rely on the state and paying their own school fees.
It does seem like a very punitive, sort of retributive action.
Yeah.
Damn you for your wealth.
Well, yeah, 20%, and
Like-
with 20%, a lot of people wouldn't go there. They'll just go to the state system where they'd have uni and free school meals. So
Yeah.
this costly program, on top of the fact that you now have an influx of a lot more students coming into the state system, which is already pretty overloaded. Class sizes are already very big. It's already very underfunded. In fact, this just sums up what this kind of Labour Party is about.
It's
It's
just
just
this
this
real
punitive system.
blunt instrument approach to things.
And
I get
jealousy, ideologically
Yeah.
driven jealousy.
I get
that
what
doesn't make
he's-
economic sense.
Yeah, I get what he's trying to say with that policy. He's identified the issue that there are kids in public schools that aren't getting, they're being underfed, malnourished, that this shouldn't do, that this is severely weakening their chance to a fair and equal education. But this is too far swinging the pendulum the opposite way to sort of counter that.
It's not even it's just general mean-spirited, shitty. I fucking hate that section of the left that's like, oh, we should eat the rich, and it's like, okay, so just because you're not successful, you're not done anything with your life, and some people are born with a lot more success handed to them.
If you're going to aim for wealth redistribution, aim to bring everyone up, not bring everyone down.
Yeah, and okay, those rich people, some of them have created a lot of jobs that have made other people wealthy and elevated their status. I don't know. It's just sort of a cheap thing to sort of hate on. Just hate on people who've made success for themselves, rather than seeking to elevate those who need to, and we have to bring about equality of everybody just suffering, rather than everybody aiming for the best they can.
Equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome.
And that kind of
This is what
far
we should aim
leftism
for.
is just so bullshit. And it's all based on conjecture. They want to come up with all these kind of conspiracy theories about why society is all terrible and oppressive against them, without actually ever having to do anything about it or even prove little elements of it. So it's just virtue signaling of this is bad because this is bad. This explains why I'm not successful in life, and I'm angry about it, so that means I'm a good person. Please like me.
I mean, at least Corbyn's now explaining to people how he's going to pay for things, rather than just... I mean, he's in a shit way, but at least he's got
and
a
it's
plan.
but that won't... Yeah, it'll take people out. That'll be a financial disaster, you moron. Okay, Corbyn, I defended him very early on in it, because the press hysteria over him, I thought, was so overbloated.
He was given one of the most horrific smear campaigns I've seen in my lifetime. Jesus Christ.
And he's a fairly nice man. I think
he's.
I would enjoy
He's
his
a principled,
company.
good dude in it for the right reasons, just going about it in the completely wrong way.
And I think a lot of his power base, a lot of the people around him will be absolute morons. The far left have secured him in Labour. They can't get a new leader because the party membership is so pro him,
because they opened it to the general public for his election, didn't they? To basically give him that landslide he needed. But it's just frustrating.
Yeah,
to see that he is the only opposition we have to Theresa fucking May right now, and he's not doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm ideologically somewhat conservative, but I would never get behind the Conservative Party because they're all nanny state wankers.
They're not conservative. They're big government.
And crooked, we're going to sell off these contracts to my exclusive friends.
Yeah, cronyism just runs rampant with them.
Well, Peter Hitchens said, the Tory... I think he said about both. The Tory and Labour Party, they're just organisations to get posh kids into jobs. We've just reached this stage where all our MPs are, privately educated. They go to Oxbridge. They go to... a special advisor program where they work in London for free for several years for a politician to get experience, and then they're parachuted into a safe seat. This is a safe seat for Labour. It always has been and always will be, a Labour seat, as with several inner cities in the UK. and there's places in rural area that always will be Tory, never won't be, because of the way the boundaries are drawn, and like, you know, those kind of like loyalties and the lack of anything else to vote for. It's really depressing democratically in the UK, because we don't, like, the Labour Conservatives, they're just entities that need to be destroyed, I think, for the future of our democracy, because turkeys don't vote for Christmas, and if we're ever going to change this country, its government, we need to completely overhaul our democratic system.
First past the post.
That needs to go. Like, separation of powers, like, get rid of the House of Lords, well, or at least replace it with something democratic.
Well, that's something I've been a bit contentious on recently. I used to be very much of the opinion of fuck the Lords, get it democratically represented, but I do, like, especially recently, they've provided some insight that we've not got from the House of Commons.
Well, there's some experts in it that like idea of experts. My idea around it, when I've been drafting ideas for a British Constitution, when I felt exceptionally fucking nerdy, is I would have like 80% of it elected, and 20%, depending on the issue, would be like respected officials in the field.
Yeah.
Of that to bring in expertise on certain issues, like, you know, like health, like I don't know, criminal law, like environment.
Because it adds that sort of meritocratic specialism that you need. You can't
and you get called up for national duty in the Lords, like you're a teacher of that.
But just having your fucking cronies appoint you to the House of Lords because you did them a solid back in the 80s is not a good enough reason to be on there 30 years later. It 100% needs reform, but I do see some value in.
What do you see about 80%, 20%? Like 20% of appointed people and 80% like an elected body.
Yeah, I could see that being.
And reduce the numbers like significantly, like max 150.
Stuffed to the brim, like to the point where if everyone shows up, they can't fit everyone in the fucking room. You're just bloating it for the sake of bloating it.
And we have 650 in the House of Commons for MPs.
How many Lords are there?
Fuckloads. About the sort of same, I think. It's it's just a sort of shitty.
That's the thing,
affair.
And the whole meritocracy argument works if it was used how it was intended to be used, and have people of their respected fields being high up and offering insights. But instead, it's just a glorified medal of, you did me a solid, mate. Here's your lordship.
Well, that's what nobility was really back in the day.
Anyway. But idealistically, I'd like to hope that its initial inception was because of to give this balanced view of having all these professionals in their various fields, and now it's distinctly not that. Yeah,
like that kind of idea does have a lot of merit, and giving kind of that insight to legislation. But we have the civil service anyway, which is giant, which is meant to do this. But it's giant and obstructionist, and
the state sucks up graduates like nobody's business into the boring political system. I remember when I just left uni, and Jesus Christ, everywhere the civil service was posting adverts for civil service fast track, join now as a grad, and you too can be a tax accountant for Her Majesty's Revenue Service. It's like, kill me now, I've just left uni and you want me to sign my life away to counting someone's fucking tax forms. So bloated.
I'm so glad I didn't end up in some kind of like civil service government job after uni.
Oh man, good lord.
Like, the state is so big. We need to cut down the size of the state so fucking much.
Especially because it's so fucking inefficient. My housemate recently got called up to do jury service, and this was while he was job hunting, and because they're so inefficient and old school about it, they don't reimburse you expenses for months at a time, and because he didn't have a job, he got to reimburse his travel expenses and that. They sent him a fucking cheque. A cheque. A cheque.
Well, checks, though, my landlord swears by them. They are the safest method of transfer, because like bank transfers can go wrong, especially when you've got a big inefficient government system, like entering the wrong number. Oh no! And then that happens. And but like check, like if you lose it, like it's not useful to anybody else apart from the receiver.
Well, that's the problem. He fucking lost it, and now he can't find it again.
Oh well,
and they won't send him another one because they're like, we don't know who's going to have picked it up. It's a check.
Yeah. Okay. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Unless you can get, so if you can't get someone to write a new one. Oh yeah, recently with the DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, for somebody who's outside, doing kind of entitlement programs and benefits. I redid my finance today. Quite a long time ago, I was unemployed, so I applied for unemployment, and I didn't actually kind of get around to it. It's meant to be universal credit's meant to be like $300 a month, and I thought, oh, actually, this is kind of shit. I don't really want it anymore. So I kind of said, I don't really want this. I can get a job. This isn't worth it. Like, the hassle of signing on and going to the meetings all the time.
Every week or two, isn't it? And
Yeah. Go every week, and it's reportedly if you miss one, it's cut. So I kind of thought, like, I tell them I'm going, and I just never turn up again, and it's fine. I did my finance recently. Apparently they've been sending me like £100, like a random amount. It's not even the full universal credit amount. They've just been sending me a random amount for like every month for a while, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like, hello, yeah, you've been sending me this amount. Number one, can you stop? Number two, can I send this back? Like, I don't want this.
I don't
need this. It's fine. And then they say, oh, okay, sorry, yeah, give me your details. Like, really such a long process. And say, okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do about that, thanks. So, okay, cool. 2 days later, I get sent a letter. It's like, your next payment for universal credit of £300. Like, why are you sending me more?
So
no.
Like, so backwards.
And I call and I try, and I guess it's finally done now. Like, I finally explained, and they just couldn't understand my situation.
Wait,
like,
you don't want this money?
Like, you just given this to me, like, without. And it's like, oh, have you been claiming while working then? No, you scammed off. Like, no. Like, I told you, this is your fault. And just such an inefficient, fucking retarded system on every level. Like, these bureaucrats, anybody who's worked in one of these systems as well knows how wasteful it is. Like, when you have a budget, you're given down and given the handling, people will encourage you to spend the rest of that budget, otherwise your budget will be less for next year.
Yeah, because you got all these fiscal hawks watching you.
There's no incentive to like actually save, and
it's
like,
literally just a game of like, how can we make this as big and convoluted and as long-winded as possible, because naturally that will cost fuckloads of money, which we want every year, so we're going to have to keep spending it.
Without a kind of culture of respect for the fact this is everybody's money, this is tax money, like, we can't just do what we fucking like with it. It's this needs to, we need to have a good kind of public use for these funds. Like, why are we pissing all this money away that could be efficient, and why did we take it off people in the first place if this is what we're going to do with it? These are people who worked for their money. Like, they're like, we're not taxing. So much in taxes is taken from people who are financially struggling because rent is high.
Yeah.
Even if your income is high, like, so many expenses are out there that will really kind of damage it. And is the video still going when it goes like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, cool.
But what was it Theresa May did recently to piss me off? I
can't imagine lots of stuff.
The most recent on the fucking list is that she raised the national insurance contributions for self-employed people.
Oh, fucking wonderful. Self-employed people who are really making a difference to this economy, really kind of creating business, creating commerce, that kind of entrepreneurial thing that really is wealth creating.
Out of the fucking work trap of the 9-to-5 office bullshit. We're trying to find our ways out of that, and they're punishing us for trying to escape this oppressive work system.
Good fucking job. Like, she has the same fucking retarded policies as in when she was Home Secretary, and then basically going to war on foreign international students and immigration, because occasionally, like, the Tory and Labour like to pipe up about immigration because people are angry about it, and they don't understand why some sects are displeased with some types of immigration. They just occasionally come out and just do a bit of immigrant bashing and like come up with some arbitrary legislation that means nothing or just harms people but sounds a little populist, so they can read, so somebody could read the Daily Mail and say, oh, good thing they're doing something about those fucking immigrants then. And like, okay, well, international students, really stupid thing to crack down, because one of our greatest things are universities in this country.
And our research programs and all sorts.
And like contributing that to the world and having that kind of loyalty and the cultural exportation in Britain, and the money it brings in, is so good. It's such a great product to sell to other people. Then they come, they live here, they pay rent, they pay taxes, they pay
about 10 times the fucking fees that everyone else does.
They pay fees that are really high, that I think should be lower, so it makes it more marketable to international students. They contribute, they educate other people on all sorts of ways. I mean, we've had so many friends from our time at Nottingham University who are international students who were able to tell us so much more about the world and educate us about
we've got
all sorts of stuff.
Nottingham Uni's got three sister universities in China now, I think, and they've got
like
one in
Ningbo.
Malaysia. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just forming all these links around the world.
And it's great, and it brings money. Like, people come and they will spend money here on local businesses, which creates jobs, which makes things better for fucking everybody.
Exactly.
But no, the Tories need a soundbite on Sky News that they can immigrant bash with. So
Students are really the problem.
yeah, it's these people coming here studying and paying taxes and paying these really extortionately high fees into the economy.
Not the unvetted economic migrants is the term. Well,
it's not like our educational institutions are such pride in this country that we can't take any joy in exporting them to.
Because students are the real danger.
Yeah,
they're the ones stealing our jobs. Not to mention the fact that the NHS is pretty much majority staffed by internationals now.
Oh yeah, I mean we treat our doctors like absolute crap in this country, like absolute shit. Our junior doctors are treated like absolute shit, and
fucked on by the government even more. Like Jeremy Hunt imposing all these ridiculous sanctions on them, essentially, and as if to prove that, oh look, the NHS isn't working. Never mind, it's because of all this bullshit legislation we passed to make their jobs so much harder.
Well, I don't know. I also think there's a merit to the fact that it's an inefficient system negotiating with the union, who are, well, you've got a government minister who's an ideologue, doesn't give a shit. And,
he's basically just an auditor. He's there to fucking trim the fat. He doesn't care where it comes from.
The unions are just the same, like ideologues don't actually give a shit in it for themselves. But yeah, they're on the other side. They want to expand it as much as possible, like just send as much money down, the kind of like arbitrary looking out for, and they obviously don't come to an agreement, and then there's obviously strikes, then obviously people give in, and then they just accept it. I see merit for private healthcare in the UK, like a hybrid system, like Holland.
I don't want it to take over.
Oh yeah. I mean, Holland, there's a hybrid system, as in like there are some private schemes that take the burden off the state. Like I would happily pay.
Well, even now,
a little bit.
Like dentistry here is private.
Yeah.
Like there's certain practices that are private. Anything cosmetic, you have to get done privately. Like it's not.
I mean,
like a blanket.
I would like a mix, so you can get all those things. Growth of preventative healthcare, like there's not many people here who get that. And
you do have some private insurance things.
Yeah, but I think it needs to be
sort of for the uber privileged.
Yeah,
sort of.
I think we need to expand it somewhat to take the burden off the NHS, which is at the moment is a bit of a black hole financially, and also our rates of cancer survival are lower than many other places, which is not good. And like our staff, we need to create competition in the market for our staff, so they actually get their value of their labour determined by the free market. I mean, obviously these implications are long-reaching, so you need to think about it quite a bit before going.
It's going to need a very comprehensive reform
strategy. But yeah, you need to have competition in the market to like get doctors paid more, better conditions, less working hours that are absolutely psychotic. Like I feel that if you've got some junior doctor hopped up on Red Bull who's just worked crazy hours on the weekend for shit pay and has barely got any sleep,
after 7 years of university and paying hand over fist for fees for that.
I mean, it's like the work that they do, they are not getting what they fucking deserve.
No,
not even fucking close.
It's not good enough to say, oh well, you get the joy of saving lives and all the fucking pain of having to actually save the lives, and
the ones you lose, and all the kind of horrible shit you see on a daily basis.
Like the NHS is a real sort of tender spot for me, because both my parents are in the NHS, and it's horrifying to see them come home from work and knowing that they work for this great institution that is like a beacon shone throughout the world of healthcare, and just see them beaten down and battered by the bureaucracy of the system. And
see, that's it though. Like, we've got this patriotic attachment to it, this very thing. But do we want to be dogmatic with it? I mean, one
that's
thing
not without fault by any means.
Yeah, one thing I don't want to give up really when it comes to nationalised healthcare is I do like the fact that we just don't let sick people without financial means die.
On the point of entry.
Yeah,
I think healthcare should be free on the point of entry.
It's a hard thing to generate. I mean, I wouldn't say that for the US. I mean, I think there's completely different circumstances based on what's already. I think developing national healthcare there would be a disaster.
There's more of them.
Mm-hmm.
They historically that's never been the case for them. They've always been sort of opposed to it in that sense, and it's just a completely different landscape in the US.
Yeah, and infrastructure's just developed differently.
The only reason it's worked here is because Attlee fucking made it his absolute mission to form the NHS after World War II.
Yeah,
if we didn't have Clement Attlee, we'd be in a completely different state right now.
Well, he doesn't deserve all the credit. I mean, lots of the liberal reforms under 1906, David Lloyd George, Liberal Party.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Disraeli had a few things, just sort of like social welfare and bringing it, and Keynesian economics in the 50s and late 40s. It had some merit, but I mean, obviously, I've got my great critiques of socialism and big government interventionism, but I think everything plays a part at some time. Maybe.
And I think healthcare is probably the place where you probably need to be the most flexible in terms of.
But it's also, you need a healthy dose of the profit motive in there, because that's how you get better equipment, that's how you get better drugs, that's how you get better treatments, that you get
you've got,
that kind of advancement.
But then you've got like the pharmacology industry and the pharmaceutical industry working, like they're almost separate entities from the greater healthcare entity, because they're basically, you've got universities doing R&D, you've got these private organisations doing R&D, you've got hospitals doing their own R&D.
Yeah.
It all sort of creates a feedback loop that sort of pushes the medical science forwards, but it's finding that ratio, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, Holland's a country, the Netherlands is a country that I found their system very interesting. Obviously, I'd have to.
How does it work? I have no grasp.
Well, it is some kind of hybrid. As in, there are a lot of very affordable private schemes that take the burden off, but you can get nationalised as well, and stuff like emergency. It's so that kind of hybrid system, and there's a lot of preventative healthcare they do there.
That's
so
cool.
You'd go and you'd have your blood work done. So
That's
like
nice.
a lot of Americans do. So I mean, it's something I'd want to study more and see how it developed and looked before I have my views very solid on the NHS. Because at the moment, I'd say I'm sceptical as into our ability to retain it, and I think the way staff are treated within it is completely unacceptable.
100%.
Yeah, that's one thing that has to change.
Like Jesus Christ, some of the anti-immigration rhetoric hurled at hospital staff who are immigrants who are there, who have made it their life choice to leave their country of origin and come to this one to help people in this country, and you're giving them shit for helping you. You
Fuck
cunt.
them.
You utter cunt.
It's someone who does that is just fucking despair, and they treat them anyway. Because that's what they do.
Well, of course they do, because they're good people, and then you still get all these Daily Mail articles about my son waited 4 hours in an NHS queue for a headache, and it was unacceptable. And it's like, they fucking treated him, didn't they? They got around to him.
Still 4 hours. That's not great.
4 hours? No, it's not great, but like.
But it's system sport. It's overloaded, and that's why I think like private healthcare initiatives, like more, if that was expanded in this country and more people took it on, the burden would be taken off.
If it was thought out, but a lot of this baseless criticism of the NHS goes, it's inefficient and it's not working. Okay, good, you've identified a problem. What's your solution? Like, how do you improve on the situation? And they go, no more fucking immigrants. It's like, well, this doesn't help.
Whoa. The labour force, how much is in there, is actually from an immigrant back. We need, economically, we've always needed immigration. Like, that's why governments won't completely flag down it, despite how much of a vote winner it is. We've always needed that kind of free movement.
The swing post for me between voting Remain and Brexit was the NHS. That was the reason I voted Remain, is because seeing my parents, like how frustrated they get with like British people training to be doctors, dog shit. Compared, like, but that's a thing. It's a generalisation.
Okay, we'll get into Brexit. I think that's a stupid thing, because the narrative about Brexit was turned into one of immigration, and we know that that's not actually going to be affected for a very long time. And I don't really think it's going to change much, because I think the same economic needs for immigration will remain the same.
But this was from a position where I was a lot more left-leaning back then.
Yeah.
Like, this past year and everything that's happened in it has centralised me a lot. I did not have the same access to the same information now as I did when I voted.
Well, to clarify, I voted Leave, for anybody who didn't know already.
I still think I would have voted Remain, but I can definitely see I can see 100% see the arguments.
See how the EU responded since then, and just understand what kind of ideologues are behind the European Union.
Slapping it, yeah.
Yeah, and this was our only chance. This is why I jumped on it. I absolutely jumped on it, because it's such a rare chance. We weren't given an inch on Lisbon, on Maastricht, on 1975 was the last referendum when we had the EEC, and even then it was kind of debatable. Like, people were pretty unsure, and they pulled that here, and this 2016 referendum was our last fucking shot. If we'd given a Remain vote, I think that would have been a complete thumbs up to the United States of Europe, to complete federal continental rule, more surrendering of power to Brussels as an institution. And I don't. Well, see how they pick on small states. See how they treat Greece.
It's completely disproportionate.
It's in like, and it's like, no, this is your government now, and it's like, I don't believe in federalism. I don't believe in big government from afar. I believe in government should be small and as local as possible, because they're the ones who actually know what's going on the ground. I think Poland is best to run Poland. I think Greece is best to run Greece. They know Greece. Like, what the fuck would our MEPs know about making legislation for Hungary, for Italy? Like, they're just fucking guessing. But what we do know is how to run the country here. We don't appreciate our differences in Europe as much as we should in between our nations and our nation states. And running each other, it's just bullshit authoritarianism and these creepy fucking ideologues that want to establish the United States of Europe for whatever reason, and these dodgy things behind the European Commission, and it's just like, no, get these fuckers out. I went to Brussels like quite a while ago, and this is when I really started becoming Eurosceptic. I saw European Parliament, these big, grand, self-congratulatory institutions, all this propaganda about how there's never been a war in Europe now since 1945. It's like, well done. Cockle claiming credit for Dawn much. But just all this bullshit of, just congratulating themselves. And then you get there, and there's just about 10 or so people looking bored, saying generic shit, then leaving in this really fancy, expensive building that's cost so much in tax money for something so fucking pointless.
I still remember in second year of uni doing politics of the EU, and oh my god, it was so mind-numbingly boring.
It's just a waste of fucking time. It doesn't bring any fucking benefits. Some of the MEPs are dirty as hell. Like the expenses
Farage.
they would have. Well, Farage, I think
I get he's dirty as hell to prove the point that the EU doesn't work, and he's trying
as in expenses there, or
well,
I don't know the extent of his.
Me neither. I don't know details.
Well, we shouldn't really allege that he's dirty as hell then without.
Well, not
knowing
dirty,
anything.
but in the fact that he's been very obstructionist in the EU.
Well, good. That's his point.
I know that's his point, but.
Well, that's what if they were supporting
European. If you're just going to pull your pants down and shit in the middle of the street and say this is why the street cleaners aren't working.
Well, that's what he's there for.
I know that's what he's there for.
That's what everybody in those kind of parties are for, like across the European Union. Oh no, I hate this. I hate the kind of argument that, oh no, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The European Union did work because MEPs like Nigel Farage obstructed it. It's like, well, no.
Oh, I'm not claiming that.
Small.
I'm just saying he could go about it in a more productive way than just.
No, because then he'd be working and enabling the machine that he wants to destroy.
No, not
I think
even
it'd be hypocritical if he was like too involved in the politics.
I'm not saying he should be involved, but just I don't know. The tone he takes is just such
I love it.
He's so smug.
It's thug life. Thug life. Well, he has to be. You have to be, because when you come in there, like, you're viewed as scum. Like, if you come in there and say, I'm the one who wants to destroy the European Union, they view you as scum. So you've got to have that balls of standing up for yourself. So that's why when he's in there and he's calling, like, low-grade bank clerk, and you're not laughing now, like, someone with that kind of charisma and spine is really, really essential in this situation.
A lot of the time it doesn't come off as charisma. A lot of the time it comes off as smug wankery, which is how I view him. I'm no fan of
like
Farage.
it, but well, you've got to respect what he's done, though. And got to respect his integrity as well. He turned on Donald Trump's created a lot of opportunities for him and that support, but he turns on him instantly over Syria as soon as there's something that he doesn't believe in.
I have no doubt that he's a principled man.
And compare him to other politicians. His integrity is fucking.
I have no doubt that he's a principled man.
higher.
It just so happens that a lot of his principles don't align with mine.
Well, like what? Like what?
His his fucking insufferable smugness.
That's not a principle. That's an aesthetic. That's an aesthetic.
But the way his brand essentially just
aesthetic. So aesthetic, not substance. To clarify, your grievances with him are aesthetic, not substantial.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Like, if you can disagree with the aesthetic of it, but like I think aesthetic is so meaningless.
I know this argument's been played out and it's been dragged under the bus, which is kind of a fitting metaphor. But the whole 350 million NHS thing.
For fuck's sake!
I know.
That's the Leave campaign. That's not Farage though. That's and also like the idiots running the Leave campaign and idiots running Remain campaign don't represent the argument because it's very multifaceted.
Oh my god, that
so
was
just
the misinformation campaigns on both sides.
Well,
was
yeah,
just
it's just like fuck
despicable.
them both. I think people should have ignored both of the campaigns.
The campaigns
were
really, dog shit.
Yeah, absolute dog shit.
Smug scare tactics from the Remainers going, all this, everything's going to burn down. You're going to literally go to hell if we leave Europe. And then all these, and then the Leave campaign was hijacked by mostly by immigration arguments and this whole fucking NHS bus thing of this promise that 350 million down in Europe every year, let's pump that into the NHS. Bollocks.
That's irrelevant. I think that's completely irrelevant to Farage in general.
It is, but it just brought this up, the fact that he was the poster boy of that bus for a while, and again the fact that the media was framing it in that light. I'm not saying that
all this is media aesthetic and framing, and it's not really something we can really delve on. We've got to view it in the lesser context that it is. That's what annoys me with politicians like Trump as well. When you say what's your disagreements with Trump? And it's he's loud and rude and says things insensitively, and it's and at the end of the day, I would much prefer a guy who swears, says horrible things, but does the job right, than someone who's perfectly eloquent and respectful, but behind closed doors will make decisions that harm lives. I'm not saying you can debate all day on the merits of Donald Trump and all that sort of thing.
That's been trod
yeah, that's very trod ground. But
the
thing is, you need to judge on.
But you've got to give merits to the argument that character can inform your values.
No. As in as in delve in, and also it's very easily distorted. Something like character, media portrayal of something like character, can
100%.
really be. And also, I think Corbyn's a nice man, but I don't want him as my prime minister at all. I think he's got a nice character, but I wouldn't want him as my prime minister at all. If I've got a guy who's an absolute cunt bag, who's a smug, smarmy wanker, which, to be honest, I like in a politician, because that means if they're egotistical, at least that's an honest motivator. And if they want to be, if they lie and say no, I'm in this with the people, it's bullshit. I don't trust you with that. If they've got those selfish motivations they're honest about, they're more predictable. And also, if they're narcissistic and want to have that legacy as well, I was the greatest prime minister of all time, or
that's genuinely what I think is Trump's main motivator, and that he just wants to be a president.
Yeah, I did. I used to think his kind of narcissistic populism really will play out, because he will pick what's going to be best for the Americans, what's going to be best for jobs, what's going to be best for the economy, and be able to see through that, and really just all the motivation to develop his own popularity and status in history would seek to that. But with the Syria bombing, to bring it full circle, I guess, in this podcast, is that's made me worried. That has made me worried that he's been infiltrated and he's listening to the wrong type of people, and we're just going to repeat the same mistakes in history that, I say I didn't fucking do it.
No. Well, I think he's just, you got your classic baby boom mentality of the whole thing about the coal jobs, trying to bring the coal jobs back in the modern age. I think that's just naive. I think it's just silly.
I think stuff like that gets dropped though, because I think when they discover something can't work, there's a big problem with something when you have a government that's got, usually it comes way of entitlement programs, an expensive government program that they push out and that just can't be a failure, because that will be a disaster on the person attached to it. So Obamacare. You push that out and you see, this is going to be rough, financial black hole, and you just sort of keep it running, keep it surviving, rather than turning full circle and going, sorry guys, we fucked up, going to try something different now, which would be the honest and least effectual approach. And I kind of thought that Donald Trump would be better at that than Obama, because Obama's got a very, his sense of character and narcissistic way going about Obama, and the way his character can't be associated with anything bad that happened under his administration, You look at people now; they've got a hero worship about him, like how he can't do any wrong, and they don't associate the negative things that happened under his presidency with him. Like I've heard, like the stuff he spoke about in his speech as well when he talks about gay marriage. Like that wasn't you. Gay marriage was the Supreme Court. Like, why are you claiming credit for all this stuff you didn't do?
And people seem to have a very short memory of how insidious he is with anti-privacy and anti-whistleblower things.
National Defense Authorization Act.
But it's always
Flint, Michigan, like Donald Trump. Like Flint, Michigan was crisis. Like Donald Trump actually came and sorted it, as in like sent them the relevant funds. What the fuck did Obama do? And people saying about DAPL. I mean, I'm pro DAPL, but the kind of hippies that didn't associate it with Obama when Obama did push it.
Wait,
Dakota Access Pipeline.
I don't know too much about it other than there's been huge unrest and the National Guard's been called and there's a load of Native American protesters.
Well, like loads of hippies who left a load of rubbish and abandoned dogs there.
Huh.
Lovely, nice hippies, like, you know, abandoning a load of dogs and then just dumping all their trash and rubbish of their for me it was clearly an aesthetic one. They wanted to be seen as hippies, as like, yeah, we're protesting like the
I don't know, I feel
man.
like
No, like if you look at the characters involved, they were just fake fucking hippies.
I don't think that's enough reason to oppose it though. I'm pretty sure there's got to be a big. I don't know enough about
the relevant environmental surveys were done, relevant permissions were done. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like anybody watching or listening, do your own research. But yeah, but my point of it originally was that Obama was protected from it, so people who were hardcore anti-DAPA would still be pro-Obama, without, you know, equating those two.
That's
and
the thing.
Libya as well, like disasters in Syria, they won't associate him with it. They won't associate him with SOPA, PIPA. They won't associate him with National Defense Authorization Act.
He's got the strongest branding of any politician in recent history.
Yeah, and it's been protected. And Benghazi as well, that's associated with Clinton, and well, probably rightfully more so.
Like his stuff on, like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate the guy, but his stuff on privacy and anti-whistleblower protections and the fucking witch hunt after Snowden, like, really turned me off him. Like, cause there's some inalienable lines for me that you can't uncross once crossed. And
considering like the platform he run on, that was very very contrary and very critical of the Bush war on terror, and
claiming to give whistleblowers more protections, which he clamped down on more than any president in US history.
Guantanamo Bay still waiting.
Yeah, like he does get a free pass way more, but just because he's the cool president and because he branded himself as the cool president.
Oh yeah,
that's
the thing.
Away
that's
with so
the
much
big
more.
problem I was talking about with aesthetic. Like, I don't care if someone's a smarmy wanker, and I don't care if someone's really eloquent and got a really kind of nice aesthetic to that. Oh, they're the cool guy. Oh, he's friendly on Jimmy Kimmel. That's very nice.
Honestly, I don't care
if he drones children. Like,
I'd rather just have the most boring person in the world do the job. Just a complete pragmatist who just has absolutely zero charisma, probably stumbles over their words live on TV, but it's actually really fucking like technocratically minded and just does the fucking job.
Well, actually, what's one example I brought of this this kind of failing government programs attached to there? I think it's called CADIVI, CADIVI, the currency thing in Venezuela.
Oh, God.
At the moment. Basically, I'll very briefly summarise a lot of fuckery in the a lot of fuckery in Venezuelan economy. Here's a timeline of the Venezuelan economy I'll try and do at the end of this podcast as we summarise it up. A thing called Dutch disease, where like economy becomes dependent on one resource, in this case oil. Venezuela was a very oil-rich country. It was very beneficial. They, in the 70s, because of like all the oil wealth that was coming in, they expanded the size of government quite a bit. There was big government spending. It was like, look, we've got all this, so let's spend it on all these programs. And then in the 80s, when Reagan came in, to crush the Soviets, he corresponded with the Saudis to keep oil prices really artificially low or inflate them or some fuckery with oil prices. I don't want to paraphrase too much, so if I don't know for something certain, I'll try and say. And then obviously from that really affected Venezuela. The economy going down. A big problem with Venezuela for a long time was capital flight. of currency and wealth just being transferred right out the nation in order to escape your funds. Because also when you've got a heavy socialist government, lots of coups going on, like government changing every week, so you're always maybe a month away from communism possibly, and full seizure of assets. So it makes sense to get your assets out. To kind of counter this, there were a lot of measures around like the smuggling and stuff, and they instituted this Khedive policy, which was control of the currency to stop. And inflation in Venezuela, fucking catastrophic, reached 99% at one point. And then some kind of government control measures to control capital flight brought in by Hugo Chavez.
Viva Chavez!
Viva Chavez! Well, no. Well, it kind of improved things for a bit, got it down to inflation maybe down to 25%, but created big problems in a bubble that's really bursting now. He created this Khedive as well, this currency control system where you can only buy currency via the government in the system, and you get a rate, and if you prove circumstances in which you need your US dollars or whatever, so you're not just taking flight out of the country. But then you get this whole black market with someone oh look, I've got an American plane ticket, can I have these dollars? Yes, you sure can. It's and then you sell them on the black market for ridiculous times the rate. Great profit margins, really, really beneficial black market there. And obviously that just makes the problem a lot worse. And with the dwindling infrastructure in Venezuela, the dwindling programs, because when you've got big government programs like that, it's hard to maintain. They had one finance minister, I think 2013, 2014. I'm trying to remember his name.
You mentioned this to me earlier.
Yeah, I don't want to butcher it. A very smart guy, a mathematician, complete contrary to the kind of ideologues that were formerly in the position. He talked about, and he was like, oh guys, sure, yeah, we're fucked. Dude, what we need to do is we need to get rid of this currency scheme. We need to burst the bubble. We're going to experience really bad inflation for a while, but that's really the only way out of this. And people thought, oh, okay, we don't like that. That doesn't sound good for Venezuela. Can we have the ideologues back? These kind of mathematically worked out economy, just denial burying heads to and then just go right back to business. And Caracas is in a terrible state right now. South America is really, really good for economic case studies as well, because you see big government and its failings there, like the Petrobras scandal in Brazil. Big government, big industry, big private, big public sector. We have to have this nationalized oil company. Like for the Petrobras scandal, it's for those who don't know, in Brazil they had a big nationalized oil company called Petrobras. Petrol Brazil, that's a clever name. And I think it was between 2004 and 2014, there is documented so much embezzlement and corruption and bribes and funneling off and fake contracts.
Impeachment?
Oh yeah, because Dilma Rousseff, the president of Brazil, who was impeached over this, she was in charge from 2003 to 2010 of Petrobras, I think. So corresponds with 2004 to 2014, that kind of corruption. But it's terrible in Brazil because you've not got enough money to pay teachers, policemen, paramedics, all sorts of state workers who just weren't getting their funding because ridiculous amounts were pissed away by arseholes. So that's why the debt in South America is insane for a lot of countries, because you've just had these big crazy socialists promising the world, promising all the solutions of big government, and not being able to deliver on them down the line. And oh shit, when you have big government money, there's big government corruption and siphoning off. It's absolute dog shit, and all these people who were taxed to oblivion are really pissed off about this. So
wonder why.
One country that's pissed off. Another case study in South America then would be Paraguay, who just about a week ago, they burned down part of their congressional building. Paraguay essentially, I think, is quite a good economy. It's not been great. It's quite a young democracy. 1992 is when they had their constitution, but they've been very fiscally conservative, as in low taxes, low spending. We're not going to obliterate people with taxes. We want to make all these crazy government promises. We're going to keep it low, and we're going to make this very attractive towards investors and job creators. which has had some success. And also now they're not in a shitload of debt like so many other countries, which is very beneficial. But yeah, this change recently was, I won't bring up names here because for some reason I'm terrible with names today, so I won't try and butcher because I'd hate to get the wrong name.
You can throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, but basically Congress voted in secret to change their constitution, so presidents can run for more terms. They can run for longer than they were constitutionally allowed to before. This is not received well with a lot of people.
Why?
Their current president can run for longer, which a lot of people, he was quite popular, but there's also a president from before, I think 2012 or 2013, he was ousted because he played a part in an eviction event. It ended up killing a lot of people, so he fucked up, killed a lot of people, so he's out, but could theoretically come back with this constitutional reform.
It's not what you want.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and they're pissed off because I think they're very hot on it and know what military dictatorships are like, and they don't want to go back to that. So if you're doing deals in secret, it's like, no, fuck you, you're not going to change the constitution in secret without our consent. So
I feel that's pretty justified, really.
So yeah, they set fire to a building. I mean, I really hope, I don't think violence is the answer the mass majority of the time, and I think when there is violence, especially if innocent people are hurt, that detracts from the issue completely. So I don't know who was hurt in this. I don't think there were so many serious. This wasn't thousands being killed or anything.
No.
So yeah, I mean, I hope obviously for a peaceful resolution and everybody out in Paraguay right now to stay safe, and yeah, really, that's the kind of the intention. Hopefully it reaches a good resolution and Congress goes, okay, they didn't like that, we won't do that again. Sorry guys.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the president put out a good kind of appeal for calm in this. But
tumultuous time.
Yeah. Anyways, we've gone for a while. So should we wrap up the podcast on a nice little note about how hopefully things will go well in Paraguay soon?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, sweet.
It,
well, thank you everybody for joining us for Podstroke Philosophy Outdoors, the first edition in the park in Nottingham. We will have further episodes of this very soon in weird and wonderful, wacky places.
Yes, okay.
So yeah, peace out guys, be nice to cats out there, and
do your own research.
Very good. Yeah, do your own research.